American wine is the best wine in the world. Sounds crazy, isn't it? Especially if you're a French wine lover. But guess what? It isn't someone's opinion. It was proven in official blind tasting that shocked the world. I'm Arsen Khachaturyants, probably the youngest winemaker in the world. Click the like button, subscribe to my channel, and let's open a bottle of history together.
The 1970s. Europe is finally shaking off the trauma of the World War II. Hippies and rock and roll have replaced the lost generation of poets. Leftist students are staging revolutions, and women are confidently wearing pants. The spirit of a new era is everywhere, and there are few corners of society untouched by its echo. But in some industries, conservatism still holds firm. Take wine, for example, a world where little has changed since 1935. When France introduced its system of quality and origin control, AOC, or Appellation d'origine contrôlée. Since then, every appellation and every word on the wine label has been tightly regulated under the system. Slow fermentation, grape varieties, aging time, pruning methods, the spacing between vines. The government oversees it all. Any violation can lead to product seizure, loss of license, and public disgrace within the professional community. In the neo-feudal system, crafted by the French, their own wine, of course, the standard by which all others are measured. Bordeaux, Bourgogne, Champagne, these aren't just regions. They are sacred names sitting at the very top of a global wine hierarchy. Each one feels like a dukedom, with its own emblem, its own nobility, its own accent. In this world, there's no room for outsiders. Like any old monarchy, power is passed down by birthright, through terroir, tradition, and family lineage. The rest of the world isn't exactly putting up a fight. Most seem to accept the order established by French soft power, or at very least, lack the means to challenge it. Merchants from London and New York travel to Medoc like pilgrims. They're told which chateau vintages are the best, and they fully buy into that reality. The idea that something comparable could come out of California, Mendoza, or Marlborough is unimaginable. The world stays in this illusion until the mid-1970s, until the unbreakable system begins to crack. A small wine tasting in a French hotel, which began as a joke, triggers a tectonic shift across the industry. An event, later known as the Judgment of Paris, marks the beginning of a new era. At the time, America barely registers on the world wine map. And while the house on the hill leads nearly every other domain, conservative European winemakers still view their American counterparts as amateurs. They're seen as lacking pedigree, a snobbish way of saying the American wine tradition doesn't have the history or roots to earn a proper place in the industry. Even among wine-loving Americans, there's hesitation. If you made it, if you can't afford to spend $100 on a bottle, why settle for anything less than a prestigious French label? Still, where the average person won't go, a visionary always appears. We all know the core of the American myth. Anything is possible in this country. Fueled by that belief, a wave of young innovators entered the wine business at the turn of the 1960s and 70s, eager to challenge the French monopoly. One of the key figures to emerge was Mike Gergich, a Croatian immigrant with an unshakable passion for winemaking. In 1972, Mike was hired by a California winery in transition, Chateau Montelena. The company was reinventing itself, and young, hungry talent was exactly what they needed. Mike was given the space to realize his full potential. From day one, he explored new methods, often veering away from French tradition, but never without purpose. He rejected malolactic fermentation to preserve the wine's natural acidity. He aged his wine in second-fill barrels, not by choice, but out of necessity. New oak was hard to come by, and California's wine infrastructure was still in its infancy. Ironically, that limitation became a strength. The wine retained its fruit-forward character, free from overpowering oak. Gergich also embraced modern tools, low-temperature fermentation and pneumatic presses, to reduce oxidation and preserve balance. These techniques helped maintain optimal ripeness, sugar, and acidity. By 1973, his defining creation was ready: Chateau Montelena Chardonnay, a wine that very soon would shake the foundations of a global wine market. 1976. The United States celebrates 200 years of independence. It doesn't mean much to Europe, but for enterprising minds, even symbolic dates can be turned into opportunities. One of them is Stephen Spurrier, a British wine merchant, owner of Cave de la Madeleine and founder of l'Académie du Vin. He organizes what seems at first like a playful event, a bit of fun to amuse the wine-drinking public, not spark a revolution. 12 Californian wines and 8 French classics are poured in a blind tasting before a jury of experts, editors from top culinary magazines, officials from the Wine Institute, a lineup of true gastronomic rock stars. The setting: the heart of Paris. The expected outcome: obvious. France, of course, would dominate. America, as always, would still be on the rise. But then something unexpected. Glasses with no labels, just 2 categories, white and red. Judges taste in silence, unaware of the wine's origins. They use a 20-point scale, intentionally vague, allowing for instinct, experience, and bias to guide them. The room holds its breath. Expressions range from curiosity to thinly veiled contempt. And then the results. Shock. In both categories, California takes the crown. The best red, in 1973, Cabernet Sauvignon from Stag's Leap Wine Cellars. The best white, in 1973, Chardonnay from Chateau Montelena, crafted by Croatian immigrant Mike Gergich. The reaction? Immediate and fierce. Audit Khan, editor of La Revue de Vin de France, and one of the judges, is so outraged she demands her scorecard back. She accuses the organizers of fraud. And she is not alone. The bourgeois wine press tries to dismiss the event as a fluke, a stunt, anything but legitimate. But the genie is out of the bottle. What happened in Paris cannot be undone. And in the months that follow, the global wine world begins to shift, quietly at first, then with growing force. The American triumph at the 1976 blind tasting seemed like a miracle, but in truth, it was the culmination of a cultural shift that had been brewing since the 1960s. Flared jeans and long hippie hair weren't so far removed from Mike Gergich Chardonnay as one might think. The same energy that sparked protest songs, new Hollywood cinema, and underground literature also found its way into the wine cellar. Vietnam, Watergate, cultural fragmentation, and the postmodern crisis pushed America into a reinvention of itself. And that reinvention touched everything, including how the country drank. A new language of expression emerged, in music, in film, in politics, and yes, even in consumption. Americans began to reject tradition in favor of new sincerity, a movement that favored authenticity over legacy, process over prestige. In this light, Mike Gergich wasn't just a winemaker, he was quite a revolutionary, no less of a rebel than Sid Vicious or Scorsese. In Europe, similar ideals of democratization were stirring, but the wine industry moved too slowly, weighted down by a powerful consumer aristocracy and rigid hierarchies. The monarchy France had built around wine centuries old and seemingly unshakable was suddenly vulnerable. And then it broke. The 1976 blind tasting, in which French judges failed to recognize their own wines, shattered the illusion of exclusivity. For the first time, the gatekeepers of taste were outdone by the newcomers. Tradition lost to terroir, status lost to skill, dynasty lost to labor. From that moment, wine was no longer a static legacy. It became a living process. Victory belonged not to those born into the right region, but those who knew how to make outstanding wine. The impact wasn't immediate, but it was irreversible. Even today's global wine industry bears the imprint of that Paris afternoon. After 1976, California's wine export increased sixfold. American Chardonnay became a symbol of taste, not embarrassment, even among elite guests. Drinking their own was now in fashion. The democratization of the market inspired winemakers and investors to look beyond tradition to Chile, New Zealand, Australia, and South Africa. And France could no longer dictate. It had to compete on price, on branding, on quality. Today, the winning bottles, Chateau Montelena Chardonnay 1973 and Stag's Leap Cabernet Sauvignon 1973, reside in the Smithsonian. No longer curiosities from a small vineyard, but national treasure. Symbols of American reinvention and proof that even in the most aristocratic of industries, merit can still win.